Hello everyone, and welcome into a site that you've no doubt seen countless times before in your own playthrough of Super Mario Bros. But as I think you'll find, this is a very unique and different playthrough than what you've probably experienced before. In fact, I think this might be the first time this has ever been attempted, at least in a recorded session. So let me explain actually what this run is. This is a 256 world run of the original Super Mario Bros. Game. And as I'm sure many of you know, that initially sounds impossible because, of course, Super Mario Bros. Only has 8 normal worlds. Well, what we'll be doing is essentially playing through the levels that were accessible via various exploits of the time, and I'll explain more as we go through. But here's the basic rundown. Of course, many of us are aware of the minus world glitch, which is actually achievable in this very level. And that was a huge, major glitch when it came to North America, and perhaps Europe. I'm not really sure how things were over there. I know that the NES wasn't nearly as popular. But in Japan, they were fascinated with a much more interesting and complex glitch. And it involved using a tennis cartridge as well as Super Mario Bros. Or Family Basic for the Famicom. And it allowed them to access 256 worlds made out of various garbage data that exists within the game. So the purpose of this run is to try and go through each of those extra worlds as much as possible, as well as the initial 8 worlds, just for completeness' sake, of course. But the reason I was drawn to this idea is it's something I've experimented with before, and it's quite an undertaking, as we'll see later. So I'm just sort of interested by that. It should also be noted that this is not a perfect run, though I will be using the best takes for each level because just for convenience sake. I think there's one time where I die and I leave that in the video. For those of you who want to see everything that these glitch worlds might have to offer but don't want to listen to my commentary, there will be a extended, uncut commentary version. Commentary-free version that goes up following the conclusion of this multi-part series. Another reason why I was actually really interested in doing this is because, as those of you who watch my videos know, I'm very interested in bootleg games and the culture that surrounds them. And I'm a big fan of a series on YouTube about the Russian Dendy, which is essentially their Famicom, their NES. I believe it was produced by Kianaman, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm really not quite sure, I probably butchered that, but it's really interesting, and a few of the episodes are subtitled, and one of them in particular discusses how a lot of the multi-carts that came out in Russia had this 256 world thing already accessible straight from the title screen. And it's actually that kind of ROM that I'm using to play through this. So this is, it should be noted, achievable on real hardware, although it would be probably quite dangerous to pull off the glitch as many times as I would be doing in this video. But it was also just on cartridges of the time in Russia and China in particular. So we're already through World 2 here. And of course, this video will encompass Worlds 1 through 9. So I don't want this to be just a straight playthrough of the original game. I do want to, show off one of the more interesting glitch worlds as well. And World 9 is one of the more interesting of them. It's got a very nice aesthetic to it, as we'll be seeing later. Here's World 2-2, which of course is reused for the minus world level that we'll be seeing in a future part of this extended playthrough. The water levels in recent recordings have ended up being somewhat of a problem for me, and I'm not sure why. It might just be me, but I think some of the glitch worlds that use water levels may in fact have more enemies swarming the screen. I can't confirm that, but it's something that I feel like I've run into a little bit. As far as to what you can expect from this playthrough, it may not be terribly interesting, I'm afraid. This was more done out of a want to have archived it. I want this to be something that we have for future reference. I should also mention that I was somewhat inspired by watching... oh, wait, I did the glitch thing. I should kind of wanted to note that real quick, sorry. You can hit the B button just right when you're Fire Mario and make him slide on, like, 1 foot across the screen. That's something I've never been able to do, but I accidentally do it quite a few times throughout the course of this playthrough. But it should be said that I was also somewhat inspired because Mato, Clyde Mandolin, who you might know for the Mother 3 fan translation, recently, I believe it was for his Legends of the Localization book, which, by the way, I picked up the Earthbound version of that, and it was absolutely excellent, so that's a recommendation. But he was doing a like a catalog of the glitch worlds, and it was pretty good, but I wanted to do one that was just a bit more extensive and covered each level all the way through, as well as some levels that he just didn't know about. One interesting factor related to some of these glitch worlds is that they are not bounded to be 4 levels. There are some worlds that are 10 levels long, so you see things like World M9, and so on. So, again, why this is kind of a huge undertaking. People might initially think that the total number of levels, given a 256 world Mario game, would be 1024. In fact, that's not the case. From my point of view, anyway. Assuming you could access every possible glitch level, and I don't think it is possible, the figure would be, I believe, 256 squared, for 256 worlds by 256 levels. So, yeah. And many of these glitch levels, I should point out, are actually just normal levels, and we'll be seeing some in particular many times over, and I'll make a note of that when we come to said levels. Some of these areas, there's not too much to say about them, though I do believe that 3-1, of course, has the famous infinite lives trick, if you can pull it off. I believe I try it here and fail miserably, but we'll just have to see. I don't recall getting infinite lives, but who knows. I actually, my first experience with, let's see, yeah, I almost got it, but I think it just ends in disappointment. Yeah, there we go. That's just what I was waiting for. My first real encounter with the 256 world phenomena probably was experimenting with Game Genie codes. And if you look up Super Mario Bros. Game Genie codes, there are a few that make reference to extra levels or extra worlds. And those represent a very small fraction of some of the possible glitch levels that you can access. I'm not sure if the Game Genie would be able to get through all 256. I don't think that's ever been attempted. It would definitely be very time-consuming if it could, but you definitely can get to some of the World M, I think. Probably about Worlds L through O, maybe? I can't confirm that, but it's a pretty small fraction of the total. I believe this is, yes, World 3-3. I hope you guys love this level, because we will be seeing it in future parts a lot. This level and another, towards the end of the game, have the tendency to repeat a ton. Eventually, though, the repeating does seem to stop, and we kind of move past this this loop of 3-3 and another level. But wow, for a while it becomes a real slog. And actually, watching this video now, reliving it, is a bit distressing. So yes, that is the basic idea of the run, and I hope that you enjoy a journey through this very unique take on Super Mario Brothers. I'm gonna try and come up with interesting things to sort of point out as we go through it, because I feel like something in the back of my head's nagging at me I'm forgetting to mention. But for now, I think I actually get hit by a fire bar coming up here. Yeah, I start... Let's see. Yep, that was a little bit cheap on part of the game. I was hoping to kill Bowser with fireballs in each world. Didn't end up working out that way. But what can you do? Like I said, this isn't a perfect run. These first 8 worlds, however, are a no-death run, which is nice, I think. I don't like to die. I think it makes the recording look bad, worse than it already does. I don't know why this level gave me so much trouble comparatively, but it did. Famous words, of course. Oh, did I ever finish what I was saying? I don't know if I did. So the first time I encountered this, it was of course with the Game Genie things. I was gonna use that to segue into the way that I encountered this particular variation of being able to select all 256 worlds from the start. Of course, I didn't grow up in Russia or China. I'm not familiar with that experience necessarily of what it was like to play that kind of version of Mario. But I am a huge fan of bootleg game preservation, and I purchased a Famiclone. I guess I should explain what that is. Maybe some people don't know. A Famiclone is a console a clone console meant to mimic the Famicom, hence the name Famiclone. And most of them have a lot of pre-installed ROMs on the console. Consoles are usually shaped like controllers, by the way. Definitely an interesting topic to look up sometime if you're interested in this sort of thing. But I encountered this kind of variation of the 256 world thing, where all of them are available from the start on a, I think it was called a Power Player. And it's a controller shaped like a Dreamcast controller. It takes Famicom games and has a pre-built ROM of Super Mario Bros. Just like that. So I suppose somewhere at some point in time there was a Russian child who had too much time on his hands and played through all 256 worlds of Mario, but I'm here to bring that back into recorded format. The uncommentated version, if I could guess, of this series, which will be one long video. It won't be this segmented part thing that I'm doing for this one. Will probably be quite a few hours long. It's going to be a gigantic project, and that's part of the reason why I'm doing a commentated series first. Is that, first of all, I would love to gain a little bit of interest in this project, which I'm going to call the Final Mario Brothers project, and also just make it a little bit easier on me to put this whole thing together. I was considering actually recording commentary with the video as I played it. I decided that that would probably be a bit too much of an undertaking for me, given how I'm really trying to get the worlds done in one attempt and then being able to move on to the next one. 4-3, by the way, ends up being the basis for one of the coolest glitch worlds in the game, and I really cannot wait for you guys to see that level, because that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, there were some times I recorded, some of these glitch worlds, as you might guess, are somewhat volatile and will crash the game. Some you can't access at all, but some you can actually get through with a fair amount of luck. And so, oh, there, I screwed up the pattern. I always forget the maze level patterns. But this one's a little bit easier. It's not as bad as, I think, 7-4, which has me walking around in circles a few times. Anyway, that completely distracted me, the mazes. So whatever I was saying will be left up into the air until it floats back into my mind at some point at complete random. Bowser was a spiny. Pretty fitting for World 4. I wonder if Lakitu is World 6. I'm trying to remember which one Lakitu is. But I feel like it might be World 6, which would also be appropriate. Oh, that reminds me, with the shooting fireballs at Bowser thing, there is a moment in one of the future episodes of this series where I do kill a glitch Bowser with Fire Flower, and we get an interesting result. There's actually two instances of that. One is more interesting than the other, because the other results in the game crashing, which distressed me slightly. In that case, I have both. I'm gonna have both takes in the video. One of the 5-1. We're gonna be seeing that a lot too. One of me killing Bowser and it crashing, and one of me simply beating the level normally. Some interesting stuff is definitely ahead, and the farther you get into the glitch levels, the more interesting they get in a lot of ways. It's fortunate, actually, that World 9 starts off so strong, though, because if Worlds A through Z were all to go on, I don't know if I would have been able to stomach trying to play through this. It's the fact that there are a lot of good ones later, and World 9 early on, that allowed me to get through this without losing my sanity. Well, losing it completely, anyway. Recently, what I wanted to do for this recording, I ended up playing this on an emulator, so I just get that right out of the way. What I would have liked to do in a perfect world is use my AVS to record footage for this. And for those of you who don't know, the AVS is an amazing little machine. It's a NES clone, sort of like a Famiclone, I guess, but with great compatibility, great functionality, a lot of cool features, HDMI output, which is a huge deal for me. And it's essentially one of my favorite things that I own related to the NES, and at this point I really can't see playing NES any other way. It's just an incredible little machine, and the output picture is great. People have actually made comparisons between it and the Nintendo Classic Mini, but the AVS actually beats it out in video quality. There was this great My Life in Gaming episode where they show the difference in, like, visual noise between the two, and the AVS looks perfect, and the Nintendo Classic Mini has a lot of weird background noise. So there's my little promotion for the AVS. That was not paid for, but definitely get one of those. Anyway, I wanted to record on that because I like it so much, but unfortunately, there didn't seem to be really any way to go about doing it, simply because if I wanted to take a route where I manually somehow got to each world, not only would that have potentially damaged the hardware if I used the traditional tennis method, which I could pull off, by the way. The AVS plays Famicom games as well as NES games, and I have both those games on both formats, so I could have tried it, but that would have, I don't want to damage it. It was somewhat expensive for me, let's just say. I gotta really stop saying that's a little bit distracting even to myself now. So I would have liked to do that, but I don't have a way to record HDMI for one thing, which is, oh, there's Lakitu. So World 5 had Lakitu, which is a kind of a big deal if you want to record from an HDMI console. So I didn't have that. It would have been really time-consuming to access each world individually, manually. That would have taken, oh my god, I can't even imagine, especially if I mess up a recording somehow and you have to redo a world. With how sort of touchy the tennis glitches in the first place, who knows how long that might take to get back to the same world that you were at. Also, the process of cataloging what world you were on might be really difficult. Just a lot of factors that went into it. So unfortunately, this is not on real hardware, but rest assured that this is what you could expect if you had the ability to pull this off on real hardware. My other option, of course, would be finding a multi-cart with the 256 world thing already enabled, or a single cart, though that would probably be less likely, quite honestly. That seemed like a little bit more than I wanted to invest in this, but because I'm already putting an extraordinary amount of time and effort with everything starting up soon, and classes and whatnot. I really needed to push to be able to get this project started and hopefully completed by the time I really have to start working on school-related stuff. The way Mato did it, by the way, when he recorded it, he created a program that I think manually changed like the bits associated with the world. I'm probably not explaining that even remotely correctly, but essentially he was able to scan through the worlds, which is really convenient for that kind of live stream that he was doing, because I think this might be one of the most boring things to try and live stream, quite honestly. But at the same time, he ended up missing, of course, the bits about how there's worlds after 4, which I can't blame him for. Who wouldn't assume that? And also, you don't get the full breadth of some of these levels. Some of them have weird properties, where you think you're going through it and it's just the same level that you've seen before, and then it's like, oh, that's a little different. And unfortunately, in some cases, there's a lot of stuff that you're going to end up missing because a particular recording might have had some glitch thing in it, which then the game froze and is then absent on a later recording. Maybe I'll compile some sort of outtakes thing in the future and you guys can see some of that stuff, but that all is predicated on, first of all, how well this initial video project goes, and also on how easy it is to edit around those parts and pick out particular moments and put them within a context that is interesting. It's moments like this, watching this, where I really wish I was a speedrunner, because I'd probably already be on World 8 by now, if not 10 minutes ago. I am, by the way, incredibly fascinated by speedrunning of this game. I think there's some amazing stuff out there. I love that we're at a point where the speedruns are within milliseconds of each other. That's what it's coming down to. We've optimized this game so far that milliseconds are what determine it. That's really cool. Related to bootleg game information, by the way, just a fun little thing that will date this video incredibly is Awesome Games Done Quick, a speedrunning, this ties into speedrunning as well, speedrunning charity event where they play through various games. is doing a game I reviewed called Donkey Kong 5: The Journey of Overtime in Space, and it's an incredible game, and I'm just so pleased that it's getting a speedrun. That game, by the way, is actually a port of Super Mario Bros. Just unofficially produced. Oh, bullet bills. We're going to be seeing a lot of these guys, too. A lot of them. I don't think they ever caused me too much trouble. At some points, though, I'm going through 4-3 or another level. I'm keeping you in suspense, I know, by not telling you which one. But the bullet bills don't really cause me much issue until I'm going through it multiple times, and then it begins to wear on me a little bit. I begin to start slipping up. Some of these levels you have to go through 4 times per world, and it is eventually you just kind of zone out. Either you're just one with the game at that point, or you're just completely out of it. Oh boy, my computer just went to sleep on me. So, not sure exactly where we are then in this recording. 2:16:18. I think I'm a few seconds behind. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna try and catch up. Because I have no idea what's going on now. I'm sure that my commentary won't be that insightful either way, but at least I can make some sort of attempt. Okay, I believe we're on World 7-2 now, is what you should be seeing. It's unfortunate that that happened. But the bloopers, our good friend the bloopers, they're going to be the ultimate problem for me a little later on, and I'll describe why, but looks like there's already a lot of them here. Some of the glitch levels, though, they just feel completely overwhelming. I guess there always were kind of a lot of them, though, in World 7. There are some... Oh, I should explain that, too. There are some instances, like the famous Minus World, where the level is not beatable. It just repeats forever, or there's no exit. So, in that case, there's a few things I might do. If 1-2 is a repeating level, for example, I might take the Minus World exit or something just to sort of conclude that. And when I say repeating, I mean that within the level itself, not that the level reappears many times, but that within the level itself, it's not beatable. I might just either stop the recording or conclude it some other way. And that's what sort of makes the figure of how many levels are really playable in Super Mario Bros. A little bit more interesting. Because, of course, the 256 squared figure is based on the idea that every level is playable and doesn't crash instantly. And that some of these are even accessible. And many of them aren't. For example, every level after 7-4 in World 7 isn't accessible through all means that I'm aware of. Maybe there's a ROM out there which allows you to also manually change the level number, but I'm not aware of such ROM. That would be interesting. Maybe someone should work on that. That'd be kind of cool to see. That would be the ultimate Mario playthrough, and I don't think anyone would get through that for a very long time. But I guess that's the next step, right? If we're going to try and beat this game as much as is physically possible, the next step is a 256 squared run of Super Mario Brothers. How much is that? 52,000 something? Maybe? Seems about right. Okay, so here's 7-4. I believe I do run into a few issues here. I am able to get to the second screen, and this is a screen that usually causes me the most issue, just because I can never remember the pattern. Maybe I'll commit it to memory this time. This is very fortunate for me, though, as someone who can't remember the patterns. Except for 8-4, I always remember 8-4. If we ever encounter any of these levels in a glitch level, they are kind of broken, and they almost are their own unique thing because the repeating aspect doesn't work. Even in 8.4, we will see examples where the repeating aspect is just turned off. So that makes it easier for someone who's terrible like me, and it also makes for a new level experience. And that's really the most interesting glitch levels, are ones that have a brand new element to them. Am I gonna get it right this time? I have no idea. I don't even know if my words are synced up with the video, so. Okay, well I did make it through. And we're at Bowser. And he's using hammers. Which do I oh wow! That was, I kinda do a cool little slide move. There's some impressive moves in this playthrough. Even though it's not great. Even though it's not perfect. It's a no-death run up through World 8. Or really up through the end of the game. But, certainly not a perfect one. But there are some moments that will impress, I hope. I'm not totally incompetent at Mario. Though I take these pipes really slowly. And that's a little bit, irritating. At this point, I am a little bit nervous because I've become self-aware that I haven't died at all. And I'd like to keep that up. Oh, no, interesting facts about the recording process itself. So I've been trying to actually get a good recording of this game for a while. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it and best way to go about it. And what I eventually decided is using FCE Ultra X, which is an emulator that I like already. And I wanted to use the uncompressed frames mode, but I found that that just was not gonna work out. It was just too laggy. Even on my pretty high-end gaming computer, it just was not up to my standards. So instead what I ended up doing was the Microsoft Video Codec 1, I think is what it's called, which is also on offer through FCE Ultra X. And the recording process became actually doable. So that's a great thing. There was still some lag that was introduced, and if you ever see me do like a really weird, like what is he doing there move, that's probably what caused it. I don't think that was caused by lag though. I think that was just caused by me being bad, which is always a possibility. Also, the controller I use, I'm a big fan of it, but I have been noticing some issues in terms of precision while playing, and that is, it's a Logitech Precision. I'm a huge fan of Logitech, but I don't know how perfect it is really for an NES game. Sometimes it's really difficult to hit two directions at the same time, which makes some of my more fancy maneuvers more difficult. I'm not sure if this is still true, but for a while there was a 0 B-button run of Mario, Super Mario Brothers, and I think that part back there in 8.2 where you have to run and jump across the narrow platforms might have been the only part where they had to press B. I'm not sure if they've corrected that yet. I know that there was some talk about using bullet bills to be able to do that. But this was a long time ago I saw this, so maybe I should check up with that again. We are quickly approaching the end, and therefore the beginning of the real meat of this run, the fun stuff, so to speak. And this is the other level that I was alluding to all throughout this playthrough. It's 8.3, and we'll be seeing it a ton. It's one of my favorite levels, actually, if you can believe that. A lot of people hate it because of the Hammer Brothers, and I get that. Hammer Brothers are the most annoying enemy in all of gaming. Next to those guys in Zelda 2, which have the same pattern as a Hammer Brother, I think those guys might be slightly more annoying, though. But anyway, we'll be seeing this a ton, and it kind of ruined my love for this stage in a lot of ways. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in it. This background is almost completely... I think it's completely unique to 8.3, though it is used again in Super Mario Bros. 2, the Lost Levels version. And it's just got this neat atmosphere to it that I really like. It's like you're storming his castle. It's the only level I can really think of right off the top of my head that really feels like you're actually going to it. And, of course, we actually passed by it, but there's an invisible block there, and I really like that idea. That it's just the same texture and blends into the background. A neat little secret. Here we are, though, 8.4. The final level in this run. Not the final time we'll see this level, though. I guarantee you that. And when we see it again, it'll be pretty interesting. In fact, we'll see this level in all sorts of different ways, now that I think about it. Here, of course, like I said, I've memorized the pattern almost completely. Well, no, I have completely memorized this pattern. It's you know, drilled into my mind. I think that I first actually beat Super Mario Bros., the original though, through All-Stars. It was a while before I got the NES version, and I think that actually came after I got Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Game Boy Color, which is one of my favorite Game Boy Color games. Another interesting thing about this playthrough, if you want to talk in terms... I'm trying to build this as the final playthrough, the end-all playthroughs of Super Mario Bros. That really is not true the more I think about it. This is certainly going to be very complete. It's a complete playthrough of what was achievable at the time, I guess. It's complete with some caveats. This is what I'm saying. In addition to the 256 level issue that I briefly touched on earlier, there's also the Famicom Disk System version of this game, which actually features a different Minus world, and maybe therefore different levels entirely. So that's for the future, I guess. Here we've beaten Bowser. We've saved Princess Toadstool, not for the last time throughout this run, by the way. But that does mean that we can now move on to the main attraction of sorts. Here we go, this is World 9-1. And right off the bat, it's got one of the most brilliant and just memorable color schemes in anything. It's amazing that a glitch level can have such a striking visual aesthetic. It's weird, it's wild, it's wacky. I mean, it's just really nice to look at. I don't know what else to say about it. There's some interesting stuff going on, the giant blue squares in the ground. Squares and rectangles. The piranha plants, which have a unique color scheme. The floor, which is this, the green floor from the water levels normally, and everything's green. It's nice and green and purple. It really clashes. It reminds me kind of Splatoon. Because of the way that it's contrasted there. The underwater clouds. I believe this world might have been what was referenced in Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels' own World 9, which was an official level. Here we have an underground castle with underground Koopas. Underwater Koopas, my bad. And they use a unique color palette. In fact, a lot of enemies have unique color palettes for being underwater, even though they never show up underwater. That's one of the unique things about the Lost Levels, I guess, is that it made use of some of these elements. We'll see later above-ground bloopers and various other such things. I'm swimming backwards for some reason. We'll see that when we come to it. So, this pretty much wraps up part 1 of the Final Mario Brothers project. Thanks for watching. Please share, spread the word, do all that stuff. Like if you liked, subscribe if you liked, do all that stuff if you like. If you don't, feel free not to.